The purpose of this video is to give a brief description of who and what the Illuminati is, their plans, and their goals. Also to give a description of how the Illuminati is fulfilling biblical prophecy. Before just dismissing all of this information as just another conspiracy theory, please watch with an open mind, and pray that God will reveal the truth to you. Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. The Illuminati conspiracy theory claims a super-secret society has penetrated governments, finance, science, business, and the entertainment industry with one goal in mind: world domination. For Christians, the seemingly far-fetched idea may hold a grain of truth from the book of 1 John. John mentions the coming of the Antichrist, a charismatic leader who will take control of the world's governments and rule for 42 months. Many who study Bible prophecy say the Illuminati are laying the groundwork for the Antichrist. Conspiracy theories abound. Some speculations links everything from wars to depressions, music to TV commercials to the Illuminati's overall plan to pacify people for the gradual takeover. The secret Illuminati Society was started in 1776 in Bavaria by Adam Weishaupt, a professor of canon law at the University of Ingolstadt. Weishaupt patterned his organization on the Freemasons, and some say Illuminati infiltrated that group. Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews, and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. In 1784 an act of God placed the Bavarian government in possession of evidence which proved the existence of the continuing Luciferian conspiracy. Adam Weishaupt, a Jesuit-trained professor of canon law, defected from Christianity, and embraced a Luciferian ideology while teaching in Ingolstadt University. In 1770 the moneylenders who had recently organized the House of Rothschild, retained him to revise and modernize the age-old protocols designed to give the synagogue of Satan ultimate world domination so they can impose the Luciferian ideology upon what remains of the human race, after the final social cataclysm, by use of satanic despotism. Weishaupt completed his task May 1, 1776.
Jennifer, thanks. Hollywood is about to unleash another blockbuster, Angels and Demons, from the same guys who brought you the Da Vinci Code. The story exposes a secret society called the Illuminati, but this shadowy group has a very real secret that stretches all the way to Arizona. Investigative reporter Tammy Leitner brings us a story of money, murder, and mystery right here in the Valley.
We are under attack from an old enemy. Fine, Professor London.
The race to save the Vatican and all of humanity from the clutches of the Illuminati is great fiction on the big screen. But the powerful organization is no myth.
The Illuminati do exist.
Our modern Illuminati mystery brings us to the most unlikely of places, Sun City, the quintessential retirement community. And among the retirees, a man with a secret. Paul Marcinkus was once a papal guard, an archbishop, and president of the Vatican Bank.
Oh no, he knew quite a bit.
And what Marcinkus knew is at the center of a conspiracy theory that has endured for decades. Attorney Jonathan Levy has been locked in a legal battle with the Vatican Bank for years. He says Marcinkus is the central figure in the mysterious death of this man, Roberto Calvi. Calvi, like Marcinkus, was an Italian banker.
They very well were the Illuminati, at least in Italy. Powerful people behind the scenes operating in secrecy.
In 1982, Calvi was found hanged from the Blackfriars Bridge in London. It was staged to look like a suicide. Calvi was connected to the disappearance of more than $1.2 billion, much of it belonging to the Vatican and the Illuminati. Eventually, 5 people would be convicted in his murder, but Marcinkus, who was indicted, eluded questioning with help from the Vatican.
Saints, sacraments.
His retirement to Arizona was arranged with full diplomatic immunity granted by the church. Extradition was denied again and again. And he kept his secret, never speaking to reporters, to investigators, or members of his congregation at St. Clement of Rome in Sun City.
I thought it was kind of tasteless, the way people would come up to him in the sacristy and say, yeah, what really happened back then? And he just kind of smile and change the subject.
Decades of whispers were silenced forever with the death of Marcinkus in his home 3 years ago.
Do you think the secret dies with him? I mean,
I think he was a true foot soldier of the church, and that we'll stand a much better chance of finding out about the Kennedy assassination.
We did ask the Phoenix Archdiocese to talk to us about Marcinkus, but they refused, releasing only this statement. Those priests who knew him in his retirement are not going to go on camera and speculate about rumor and innuendo that they know nothing about. And so the mystery endures. I'm Tammy.
The plan required the destruction of all existing governments and religions. This objective was to be reached by dividing the masses into opposing camps in ever-increasing numbers on political, racial, social, economic and other issues. The opposing sides were then to be armed, and an incident provided which would cause them to fight and weaken themselves as they destroyed national governments and religious institutions. In 1776, Weishaupt organized the Illuminati to put the plot into execution. The word Illuminati is derived from Lucifer and means holders of the light. Using the lie that his objective was to bring about a one-world government to enable men with proven mental ability to govern the world, he recruited about 2,000 followers. These included the most intelligent men in the field of arts and letters, education, the sciences, finance and industry. He then established the lodges of the Grand Orient to be their secret headquarters. Because Britain and France were the two greatest powers at the end of the 18th century, Weishaupt ordered the Illuminati to foment the colonial wars to weaken the British Empire and organize the Great Revolution to weaken the French Empire. The latter he scheduled should start in 1789. A German author named Zwack put Weishaupt's revised version of the age-old conspiracy into book form and named it Einad Original Scripten. In 1784 a copy of this document was sent to the Illuminists Weishaupt had delegated to foment the French Revolution. The courier was struck dead by lightning as he rode through Ratisbon on his way from Frankfurt to Paris. The police found the subversive documents on his body and turned them over to the proper government authorities. After careful study of the plot, the Bavarian government ordered the police to raid Weishaupt's newly organized lodges of the Grand Orient and the homes of some of his most influential associates. Additional evidence thus obtained convinced the authorities the documents were a genuine copy of a conspiracy by which the Synagogue of Satan, who controlled the Illuminati at the top, planned to use wars and revolutions to bring about the establishment of one kind or another of a one-world government, the powers of which they intended to usurp as soon as it was established.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
From 1945 and the end of the war through 1989 and the end of the Cold War, we had a worldview. Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it was a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order, and instead it looks like we got a lot of disorder. And we still, and after 9/11, we've been more sensitive to the disorder.
When our founders declared a new order of the ages, when soldiers died in wave upon wave for a union based on liberty, when citizens marched in peaceful outrage under the banner Freedom Now. They were acting on an ancient hope that is meant to be fulfilled.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
In 1785, the Bavarian government outlawed the Illuminati and closed the lodges of the Grand Orient. In 1786, they published the details of the conspiracy. The English title is The Original Writings of the Order and Sect of the Illuminati. Copies of the conspiracy were sent to the heads of church and state. The power of the Illuminati was so great that this warning was ignored, as were the warnings Christ had given the world. Jude 1:4. For there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness, and denying the only Lord God, and our Lord Jesus Christ. The Illuminati went underground. Weishaupt instructed his Illuminists to infiltrate into the lodges of Blue Masonry and form a secret society within secret societies. Only Masons who proved themselves internationalists, and those whose conduct proved they had defected from God, are initiated into the Illuminati. Thus the conspirators used the cloak of philanthropy to hide their revolutionary and subversive activities. In order to infiltrate into Masonic lodges in Britain, Illuminists invited John Robison over to Europe. He was a high-degree Mason in the Scottish Rite Professor of Natural Philosophy at Edinburgh University, and Secretary of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. John Robison did not fall for the lie that the objective of the One-Worlders was to form a benevolent dictatorship. He kept his reactions to himself, however, and was entrusted with a copy of Weishaupt's revised conspiracy for study and safekeeping. Because the heads of church and state in France were advised to ignore the warnings given them, the revolution broke out in 1789. In order to alert other governments to their danger, in 1798 John Robison published a book, entitled Proof of a Conspiracy to Destroy All Governments and Religions. But his warnings have been ignored, as were the others. In 1829, the Illuminati held a meeting in New York which was addressed by a British Illuminist named Wright. Those in attendance were informed that the Illuminati intended to unite the nihilist and atheist groups with all other subversive organizations into an international organization to be known as communism. This destructive force was to be used to enable the Illuminati to foment future wars and revolutions. Clinton Roosevelt, a direct ancestor of FDR, Horace Greeley, and Charles Dana were appointed a committee to raise funds for this new venture. The fund they raised financed Karl Marx and Engels when they wrote Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto in Soho, England. In 1830, Weishaupt died. He carried the deception that the Illuminati was dead to his own deathbed where, to convince his spiritual advisors, he pretended to repent and rejoin the church. According to Weishaupt's revised version of the age-old conspiracy, the Illuminati were to organize, finance, direct and control all international organizations and groups by working their agenda into executive positions at the top. Thus it was that while Karl Marx was writing the Communist Manifesto under direction of one group of Illuminists, Professor Karl Ritter of Frankfurt University was writing the antithesis under direction of another group, so that those who direct the conspiracy at the top could use the differences in these two ideologies to start dividing larger and larger numbers of the human race into opposing camps so they could be armed and then made to fight and destroy each other, together with their political and religious institutions. The work Ritter started was continued by the German so-called philosopher Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche, who founded Nazism. Nazism was developed into fascism and later into Nazism and used to enable the agenda of the Illuminati to foment World Wars I and II. In 1834 the Italian revolutionary leader Giuseppe Mazzini was selected by the Illuminati to be director of their revolutionary program throughout the world. He held this post until he died in 1872. In 1840, General Albert Pike was brought under the influence of Mazzini because he became a disgruntled officer when U.S. President Jefferson Davis disbanded his auxiliary Indian troops on the grounds they had committed atrocities under the cloak of legitimate warfare. Pike accepted the idea of a one-world government and ultimately became head of the Luciferian priesthood. Between 1859 and 1871, he worked out the details of a military blueprint for 3 world wars and 3 major revolutions which he considered would further the conspiracy to its final stage during the 20th century. Most of his work was done in the 13-room mansion he built in Little Rock, Arkansas, in 1840. When the Illuminati and the lodges of the Grand Orient became suspect because of Mazzini's revolutionary activities in Europe, Pike organized the new and reformed Palladian Rite. He established 3 supreme councils. One in Charleston, South Carolina, another in Rome, Italy and another in Berlin, Germany. He had Mazzini establish 23 subordinate councils in strategic locations throughout the world. These have been the secret headquarters of the world revolutionary movement ever since. Long before Marconi invented wireless radio, the scientists who were of the Illuminati had made it possible for Pike and the heads of his councils to communicate secretly. It was the discovery of this secret that enabled intelligence officers to understand how apparently unrelated incidents took place simultaneously throughout the world, which aggravated a situation and developed into a war or revolution. Pike's plan was as simple as it has proved effective. He required that communism, Nazism, political Zionism, and other international movements be organized and used to foment the 3 global wars and 3 major revolutions. The First World War was to be fought so as to enable the Illuminati to overthrow the powers of the Tsars in Russia and turn that country into the stronghold of atheistic communism. The differences stirred up by a junta of the Illuminati between the British and German empires were to be used to foment this war. After the war ended, communism was to be built up and used to destroy other governments and weaken religions. Fascists and political Zionists. This war was to be fought so that Nazism would be destroyed and the power of political Zionism increased so that the sovereign state of Israel could be established in Palestine. During World War II, international communism was to be built up until it equaled in strength that of united Christendom. At this point it was to be contained and kept in check until required for the final social cataclysm. Can any informed person deny Roosevelt and Churchill did not put this policy into effect? On August 15, 1871, Pike told Mazzini that after World War III is ended, those who aspire to undisputed world domination will provoke the greatest social cataclysm the world has ever known. We quote his own written words taken from the letter catalogued in the British Museum Library, London, England. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
The plane was coming in. I noticed it a second before it hit the building. It looked like it was moving slowly, and it lined itself up to hit the building directly.
The doorman goes to me, "Wow, I never seen a plane flying so low." And we looked out at it, all of a sudden, boom, it seemed like it wasn't even real.
I'd say the whole takes about, looks like 6-7 floors were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Hold on just a moment. We got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
I'll tell you what's going on.
Since the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, world events in the Middle East show a growing unrest and instability between Jews and Arabs. This is completely in line with the call for a third world war to be fought between the two, and their allies on both sides. This third world war is still to come, and recent events show us that it is not far off. The coming World War III, pre-tribbers think it's the Gog and Magog War, is being set up, as Pike and his demons told him, to mess up the Christians who thought the World War III and rapture would take place, would be deceived, and lose all hope in Christianity, and the rest is going to be history, as we are under judgment. In these last days, great deceptions are in abundance. Those in high places are destroying the world economy by design, fact not fiction. If you can grasp what the powers that be are doing, you will have a firmer grip on what is coming. To know your enemy's tactics is essential in spiritual warfare, essential for victory. We are to be wise as serpents, meek as doves, but wise as serpents we must be, or we will be in for a great deception at our doorstep. Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents, and harmless as doves. This will cause the great falling away, as many will think, we have been lied to, the Bible is a lie. No, the Bible is true, it is man and his doctrines, and evil plans of the powers that be are the ones setting many up. It is high time to be in watching and prayer, and understand. Political Zionist formed World War II, to the exactness, and the planned political Zionist, wiped out and Muslims wiped out. The last part will never happen, to rid the world of Christianity. This will never happen, but the greatest deception of all time stands at the door. Are you ready? Are you awake? Do you now see this evil plan, and the Lord using evil nations and men as his rod of correction? I hope by now your eyes are opened. If not, it is high time to awake from slumber and put on the full armor of Christ, and stand on the sure word of the Holy Bible. It's now or never.
Hollywood filmmaker Oliver Stone has said Western bankers enabled Hitler to carry out his atrocities during World War II. An economist, Max Kaiser, says similar schemes still go on today, and he claims U.S. banks finance terrorists as well as Wall Street bonuses.
Well, it's no secret that corporations in the U.S., like Coca-Cola, of course, created the Nazi beverage Fanta, Orange Fanta, which was for Nazis. IBM was responsible for all the calculation of all the serial numbers that was used to tag the prisoners that ended up in the concentration camp. So American J.P. Morgan was playing both sides of the war at that time. Just like J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs play both sides of the war today. They're financing the mercenaries and the terrorists in various countries, just like they're financing the bonuses on Wall Street. They're arbitrageurs. They have no sovereignty. They have no country they're affiliated with. They're amoral. They're just eunuchs plowing through the cyberspace of money, looking for, you know, like a sloth, looking like a slug, looking for salt. They're just they're not even human.
While the general public has been led to believe that communism is a movement of the workers to destroy capitalism, the book Pawns in the Game proves that both British and American intelligence officers obtained authentic documentary evidence which proved that internationalist capitalists operating through their international banking houses had financed both sides in every war and revolution fought since 1776. There is plenty of documentary evidence to prove that Pike, like Weishaupt, was head of the Luciferian priesthood in his day. In addition to the letter he wrote to Mazzini in 1871, Another he wrote to the heads of his Palladian councils on July 14, 1889, fell into hands other than intended. It was written to explain the Luciferian dogma concerning worship of Satan and worship of Lucifer. In it, he said in part, "That which we say to the crowd is we worship God. But it is the God that one worships without superstition. The religion should be, by all us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. Yes, Lucifer is God. And unfortunately Adonai, the name given by Luciferians to the God we worship, is God also, for the Absolute can only exist as two gods. Thus, the doctrine of Satanism is a heresy, and the true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil." Propaganda put out by those who direct the Luciferian conspiracy has caused the general public to believe all who oppose Christianity are atheists. This is a deliberate lie circulated to hide the secret plans of the high priests of the Luciferian creed who direct the synagogue of Satan, so that the human race still find it impossible to establish on this earth God's plan for the rule of the universe, as he explained it to our first parents in the Garden of Eden, told in Genesis. The high priests of the Luciferian creed work from the darkness. They remain behind the scenes. They keep their identity and true purpose secret, even from the vast majority of those they deceive into doing their will and furthering their secret plans and ambitions. In 1925, His Eminence Cardinal Caro Y. Rodriguez, Archbishop of Santiago, Chile, published a book, The Mystery of Freemasonry Unveiled, to expose how the Illuminati, the Satanists, and the Luciferians had imposed a secret society upon a secret society. He produces a great deal of documentary evidence to prove that not even 32nd and 33rd degree Masons know what goes on in the lodges of the Grand Orient and Pike's New and Reformed Palladian Rite and the affiliated lodges of adoption in which female members of the conspiracy are initiated. On page 108 he quotes the authority Marjota to prove that before Pike selected Lemmy to succeed Mazzini as director of the World Revolutionary Movement, Lemmy was a rabid and confirmed Satanist. But after he had been selected, he was initiated into the Luciferian ideology.
Some of us are against the Illuminati, and we are against the Illuminati at our own detriment. When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them, and nobody likes them.
Video Cat Williams has had a controversial visit to Seattle the past few days, and tonight
we all love Dave Chappelle.
Exactly. Dave Chappelle has never been a part of the Illuminati. They don't want him or me or people like us. Yeah. But now it's not necessary for us to stir up that hornet's nest unless we intend to get stung 1,000,000 times. I didn't understand that. They had to sting me 1,000,000 times.
Let me explain something to you. I know it's people doing poorly in this country. Yeah. And they shot Trayvon Martin dead for looking kind of like I look. Yeah. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X ended up dead for telling the truth. So as a comedian, I don't think it won't happen to me. I think they've thrown me in jail 36 times in 36 months, and I think you've never seen me in a court of law. That means they're effing with me.
I don't really know how to complain because all of the people that I ever looked up to had to go through it too. So I know how much they talked about Martin Luther King, and I know what they end up doing to him. I know this same story about Jesus and a few of my uncles. So now I know that if your mouth is really, really big and you try to tell the truth for a living and you like to air people out, hatred is coming your way.
America ain't about what the fuck happens to you. America is about what the fuck you do when the shit happens to you. So now, I have to come back and tell my people they finna fuck us. When you go home into your 2012, understand they already have concentration camps in the United States of motherfucking America that they've been building for 4 years now. And the question is, who in the fuck is you finna put in there? We already got a prison, and that motherfucker is so packed.
I didn't know it was going to be this type of hatred, but you know, I'm concrete in all things because of He who strengthens me. So that doesn't mean I always make the right decisions, but I am going to stand by what I stand for.
Learned theologians have stated that Lucifer, Satan, or called the head of the forces of evil simply the devil, knows he did wrong and knows that he was wrong. He is a pure spirit and therefore indestructible. Knowing he is wrong, he still is determined to drag as many souls as possible into hell with him to share his misery. This being a fact, our duty is clear. We have to make known the truth in this regard to as many others as quickly as possible so they can avoid the snares and pitfalls set by those who serve the devil's purpose and penetrate the lies and deceits of those who wander about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Weishaupt's plot requires the following. Number 1. Abolition of all ordered national governments. Number 2. Abolition of inheritance. Number 3. Abolition of private property. Number 4. Abolition of patriotism. Number 5. Abolition of the individual home and family life as the self from which all civilizations have stemmed. Number 6. Abolition of all religions established and existing so that the Luciferian ideology of totalitarianism may be imposed on mankind. The Bilderberg Group. A yearly secret meeting of the world's leading politicians, media moguls, business titans, bankers, and royalty, who discuss and dispense their agenda for the coming months and years.
According to a report in WorldNet Daily, some of the richest men and women in the world met secretly in New York recently. When the world's wealthiest individuals hold secret meetings, it's time to pay attention. In 1910, the 6 wealthiest men in the world met at Jekyll Island, Georgia. That meeting resulted in the creation, 3 years later, of the largest criminal enterprise ever devised, the Federal Reserve, so-called. Judging from the list of participants, the recent meeting in New York may result in something even more monumental. The London Times identified them as Bill Gates, David Rockefeller, Ted Turner, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, George Soros, and New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Based on the Forbes magazine list of billionaires, the room had a net worth of about $120 billion. With all the bailout figures we've heard recently, it doesn't sound like that much. Believe me, it is. $120 billion is about equal to the annual budget for all of New York State, from New York City to Buffalo, and everything in between. The meeting, which took place in early May, was at the home of Sir Paul Nurse, a British Nobel Prize-winning biochemist and president of Rockefeller University. Microsoft's founder, Bill Gates, called the meeting. The London Times reported the informal afternoon session was so discreet that some of the billionaire's aides were told they were at security briefings. Discreet is the British way of saying secret. I do not believe that it is coincidental that this meeting came only a couple of weeks after another super secret and more powerful group met in the secrecy in Greece, the Bilderberg Group. They have advocated a one-world government for at least a century. They also see themselves as the elite saviors of mankind. According to the Times, the billionaires were each given 15 minutes to present their favorite cause. Over dinner, they discussed how they might settle on an umbrella cause. Taking their cue from Gates, the report said they agreed that population control was the #1 issue. Experts say the global population will top 7 billion in 2012. According to reports at the meeting, Bill Gates outlined a plan to cap the global population at 8.3 billion. It all sounds so civilized, doesn't it? Here's the less politically correct but more accurate version. A group of unelected liberals with more money than many governments have just decided how many people will be permitted to live. This group of self-appointed governors will now have to draw up criteria to be used to decide who will not be permitted to live and how they will die. It can and will be dressed up in polite and civil terms, but in the end, it means certain people will have to die. The meeting was billed as a meeting of philanthropists wanting to do good. But one can put lipstick and pearls on a pig, and it'll still be a pig. In the final analysis, there's only one way to cap a population, by deciding who's permitted to live, and who, for the good of all, must die.
The Council on Foreign Relations, a private organization that masquerades as a government committee which has tremendous influence over foreign policy and is used to construct the New World Order.
Thank you very much, Richard, and I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, I guess, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the Council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the Council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
The Trilateral Commission, a private organization set up by David Rockefeller for the purpose of organizing America, Europe, and Japan into the New World Order.
But the Council of Foreign Relations, I thought, was really a fascinating organization. And of course, a lot of people have always raised that question, what about the Trilateral Commission? And they look upon the thing as almost as if it's this conspiracy to snuff out civilization. Could you tell us about the Trilateral Commission?
Yes, I'd be glad to. I say it's very dangerous, with my tongue in cheek, to say the least. But it is true that some groups have said that it was very dangerous. In point of fact, it was an organization that I had a hand in starting at a moment when I felt very concerned that when Japan was becoming a major power in the world, that the Japanese people, leaders of their business and important parts of the Japanese economy, had very little contact with people in the United States and Europe. It seemed to me, as it emerged as a major power of the world, it was very important that Japanese leaders should have a knowledge and an understanding of their counterparts in other parts of the world. So I, with a number of other people, put together an organization which we call the Trilateral Commission to include opinion makers in not only the United States and Europe, but also Japan, so that Japanese leaders, not necessarily top government leaders, but opinion makers, would have a chance to become acquainted with their counterparts.
The Bohemian Grove, a secluded 2,700-acre redwood forest in Northern California where members meet every July to have private discussions of the next year's events, and participate in a human sacrifice ritual to Moloch using a life-size effigy.
Listen, I am a happy member of the Bohemian Grove. I like the folks who come there, and it's really inappropriate for me to talk about the group beyond that. Thank you.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
Great owl of Bohemia, we thank thee for thy adjuration.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
Really?
That's right.
Well, I'm Alex Jones, and I snuck in there in 2000. I'm the guy that blew it wide open and got the video. It's been on national TV.
Well, I disrespect you for that.
You do?
I do.
But there's a lot of big public officials going in there. Don't we deserve to know?
You took I don't know anything about you, and I don't know anything about your film. But if you go in there with an understanding, you violated that understanding by releasing that film, and I don't respect you for that.
Really? But we have public officials
I'm
there,
sorry.
so
You took an understanding when you went in there that you would not do that film. And did you have an understanding when you went in there?
No.
Did you crash it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it has no trespassing signs there too, doesn't it?
No, they put them up after.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just walked in.
I'm sorry, sir. I've been there before. I know what the circumstances are, and I'm sorry you violated the understandings. That was not a gentlemanly thing to do.
But what about the ritual? Is the ritual genuinely?
Sir, everything I don't owe you this comment.
I know. I appreciate it.
This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you
ever
and goodbye.
been in the ritual?
It's none of your damn business.
Oh.
The Federal Reserve, a private bank that most Americans think is a government agency simply because of its name. The bank controls the money supply, interest rates, and loans money to the federal government for interest.
At least you're getting back to the point where you can start to look at fundamentals, and that's good news. What happened?
I think you're in a liquidation phase. I think Kirsten had it exactly right. I think there's a bunch of wrong-footed moves by Hank Paulson and the Illuminati of the country, if you will, and I think we're paying for it right now.
What?
Freemasonry, a fairly well-known global secret society in the form of a men's fraternity which is harmless on the lower levels, but within the cloak of secrecy at the top, members are intimately involved with nefarious occult activities and worship Lucifer.
Lucifer, what is your problem?
Just that, sir.
Okay.
I'm a Christian, sir.
I'm pure and virtuous and wholesome and innocent. How can you say anything bad about me?
Sir, you need to be born again.
I am born again.
Now, did you just say that you were Lucifer?
I am Lucifer.
Okay, define Lucifer for me.
Pure, virtuous, wholesome, innocent individual that's out to help people.
Lucifer is?
Yeah.
Say that again. Lucifer is a pure, holy...
Virtuous.
Virtuous. Now, is he the Lucifer that God created?
That's the same one.
Oh, man, this is great. I'm going to put this on the internet.
Oh,
Amen.
God bless you,
Amen.
brother.
Because that's exactly what the Shriners and Masons teach, is that Lucifer is light.
No.
And you're,
what
you're
about
confirming
those hospitals?
You know what, sir? Jesus said, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, we did not do these good deeds in your name. And you'll say, away from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you.
Jesus said it?
In Matthew chapter 5. So you're a Christian and you don't know that. Actually,
no, I really am.
You are.
Because I'm pure and virtuous.
You're pure and virtuous, okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you're perfect without Jesus, right?
No.
Okay, tell me about Jesus. Who is Jesus?
Well, he's my leader.
Is he the Son of God?
Yes, he is.
Is he the only worshipful master?
Yes.
Have you ever been called worshipful master?
No, because I've just been too busy. I've been working.
Working?
Working to help people.
What
like
kind
you.
of work? Okay.
Get out of here.
See, this is what a Mason confesses, is that Lucifer is light. You heard it?
Skull and Bones, an elite fraternity at Yale University in Connecticut which chooses 15 new members each year and inducts them into the Illuminati with satanic rituals and pretend human sacrifices.
This evening, getting under the skin of the Ivy League, those 8 old, definitely distinguished colleges that are known for their ivy-covered buildings and their sometimes superior attitudes to other colleges and universities, which often gets under the skin of people who went elsewhere. Yale University is 300 years old this year, and were you to visit its campus, you would see that it still has exotic clubhouses, which look like tombs where Yale's legendary secret societies meet. Their prestige and importance have largely evaporated, but the rituals are still a secret. And so when we heard that some enterprising characters had managed to spy on the famous Skull and Bones Society, well, we couldn't resist. Here's ABC's Dan Harris.
The videotape provides a grainy glimpse into what appear to be the initiation rituals of a secret society that's been around since 1832, whose members have gone on to be leaders of Wall Street and the White House, the Senate and the Supreme Court.
They're sort of trying to scare the initiates, make them, disorient them, frighten them.
New York Observer investigative reporter Ron Rosenbaum accompanied a team of Yale students who shot these pictures 9 days ago. Rosenbaum's curiosity about Skull and Bones was permanently piqued when, as a classmate of George W. Bush, he lived right next to the Tomb, the group's heavily fortified home. From their perch, Rosenbaum and his cohorts taped the Tomb's courtyard. What they captured, they say, was initiates, known as neophytes, being forced to kiss a skull, then members performing a mock killing. It may look like your average fraternity nonsense, but Rosenbaum says it's not.
Even though it may seem silly to us, it seems to mean something to them, and you can't argue with the success of Skull and Bones.
True. Famous alums include senators John Kerry and John Chafee, to name two, cabinet secretaries such as Averell Harriman, and 3 presidents, William Taft, George Bush, and George W. Bush, who's been reluctant to talk about Skull and Bones.
Does it still exist? The thing is so secret, I'm not even sure it still exists.
In recent years, by many accounts, the on-campus influence and allure of Skull and Bones has waned dramatically, and there is no proof that the rituals recently caught on videotape are the same ones performed by the current president. Still, Rosenbaum says the tape is a valuable artifact, an extremely rare view into the secret society that groomed the American ruling class for generations. Dan Harris, ABC News, New York.
That's our report on World News Tonight. Don't forget Nightline.
The military. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, who are the head officials of each military branch, are carefully promoted and chosen for their willingness to serve the Illuminati. Secret cells committed to black ops are also under their control.
By the time I was 17, this is when I was initiated as a third-level witch. Generically speaking, it's known as a master witch, or what's properly known as a high druid priest. This gave me automatic authority over a region. Now, a region is the governing area in which an Illuminati has full authority over. In this particular region, we had over 1,000 Illuminists within it. A year later, under orders from my bosses, and I'm going to tell you right now, I was under orders. This was not my decision. I joined the United States Army. There was an ongoing plan since the mid-60s in which the Illuminati were infiltrating military bases throughout the world. The reason they were doing this is because they wanted to gain access and control over all the forts throughout the world. Now, if you can gain access, of course, to these soldiers, let's say you set up a coven at a particular base. You recruit the people from communications, from supply, wherever. If these people are in and they're one of you, well, because they're one of you, you have access to what they have access to. And we're talking about some very high-level secrets now. But because they were one of us, they would just bring all the stuff over to us upon demand.
The Vatican. Once seen as the enemy of the Illuminati, the leadership within the Catholic Church and the secretive Jesuits have been working hand in hand with them for many years. The Pope could one day be the false prophet talked about in the Bible who will tell the world that the Antichrist is the return of Jesus.
Vatican calls for Central World Bank to be set up. Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace in a document called Towards Reforming the International Financial and Monetary Systems in the Context of a Global Public Authority. Yes, they're calling for a new global economic authority and a central world bank to be run by the UN, under which Tony Blair now enriches himself around the world.
I mean, to think that the Pope is coming out and saying the Vatican, oh, there should be a World Bank, because everything that's caused millions to die is centralization of financial authority in too big to fail institutions. So here you have the Vatican saying, let's create an even bigger too big to fail institution to create more murder, more assassinations, more war. This guy is completely inconsistent with anything that philosophically or theologically speaking that he says he represents. There's no connection.
And CNBC Max here says it should be music to the ears of Occupy Wall Street demonstrators and similar movements around the world who have protested against the economic downturn. First of all, we are not protesting against the economic downturn. We are protesting fraud, against banking fraud.
Occupy Vatican! Occupy Vatican!
It's a global insurrection against banker occupation. We're not saying who cares if the economic downturn. This is economic collapse caused by financial fraud unchecked.
Yeah, plus the Vatican Bank is one of the most corrupt banks in the world. It's as corrupt as Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. It's as corrupt as HSBC. It's as corrupt as any big bank.
Well, I think he was concerned about Steven Schwartzman and Lloyd Blankfein getting,
Blankfein said he's doing God's work.
Yeah.
Pope's like, no, wait a minute. I got the big hat.
Knights of Malta, an organization within the Catholic Church that is believed to contain an inner circle of individuals who work in tandem with the Jesuits, to secretly maintain and expand the wealth and influence of the Catholic Church. Radical Islam. Radical Muslims who kill innocent civilians and carry out deadly terrorist attacks around the world are funded and encouraged by the Illuminati to create an enemy and instill fear in populations so that freedoms and civil rights may be removed as part of the so-called solution to the problem. Communism. While seen as the enemy of America and capitalism, communism is actually a creation of the Illuminati and is used as a controlled opposition to continue the construction of the New World Order. The British monarch. The British royal family secretly believes they are descendants of the lost tribe of Dan, and that they have the divine right to rule as kings. The CIA. The Central Intelligence Agency is responsible for overthrowing or implementing governments or dictators around the world so that the global goals and interests of the Illuminati may be carried out. It is not only an intelligence agency, but a covert terrorist organization and drug-running agency.
Partly because of her controversial drug stand, President Clinton fired his Surgeon General. But there was more disturbing news in the fall of 1993 when a report revealed that the government itself may have been running drugs. The head of the DEA at the time, Robert Bonner, said that a ton of pure cocaine worth hundreds of millions of dollars had been smuggled into the United States. And he blamed the CIA, saying the agency had joined the Venezuelan National Guard in drug smuggling.
Let me understand what you're saying. A ton of cocaine was smuggled into the United States of America by the Venezuelan National Guard?
Well,
in cooperation with the CIA?
That's exactly what appears to have happened.
Bonner said he was the only one who could have approved transportation of illegal narcotics such as cocaine, and that this shipment had entered the country without his authorization.
Let me put it this way, Mike. If this has not been approved by DEA or an appropriate law enforcement authority in the United States, then it's illegal. It's called drug trafficking. It's called drug smuggling.
Former DEA agent Levine said that equally shocking was the fact that for more than 30 years, the federal government had protected some drug dealers.
As officers in the narcotic war, we saw the political choice made up close and personal.
One example, Levine said, was during the Nixon administration when he was about to bust a major source of heroin.
And I was stopped cold, because that source were our allies in the Vietnam War.
Levine said this was not an isolated incident. that it had happened many times in his 25-year career.
If it was a question of supporting people who supported our economic and political philosophies in other parts of the world, and they happen to be drug dealers, as most of them are, we supported them and we protected them. We protected them by looking the other way.
And the drug dealers had another ally in the war: money.
That it has a corrupting effect whose tentacles.
The NSA, the National Security Agency, built and maintains Echelon, the most sophisticated spy system ever created. Every form of electronic communication is monitored or recorded. Keywords, voice prints, and specific phone numbers are tagged and intercepted among the billions of communications around the globe. The FBI infrastructure and manpower is used to obtain wiretaps on politicians, activists, and whistleblowers, which are then used for blackmail purposes so these individuals can be controlled, contained, or eliminated. The DEA. While most people who work in the Drug Enforcement Agency are trying to reduce illegal drugs on the streets, there is an inner circle who work hand in hand with drug cartels to import drugs and launder money. Pharmaceuticals. Prescription drugs are designed and advertised as magic pills for every ailment from depression to anxiety, and mask the symptoms while ignoring the root cause behind these ailments to help keep the population legally sedated and out of the way. Entertainment. Money is funneled to promote musicians, TV shows, and films which teach and encourage immorality and violence, and help to keep the masses mesmerized and out of the way of political and social agendas that are being implemented.
And I just think that the whole idea of celebrity and fame has become really convoluted and, kind of bastardized, like whereas fame used to be the byproduct of success, and now it's the ultimate goal. And if your ultimate goal is to be famous, then you're gonna do a lot to get there, like sign your name in blood in a contract with the devil. Like you're gonna end up on a one-way street and it's going nowhere. Like that's just the truth. I've seen so many people like forsake their moral code and their value systems just for a little bit of fame, and it's not worth it at the end of the day. It's really not worth it.
Where I wanted to be like the Amy Grant of music, but it didn't work out, and so I sold my soul to the devil.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. Lisa came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
I was going to school to be a vet tech, and I was into my studies, getting good grades, and you know what screwed it all up was this one guy. He broke my heart, and I was like, cool, thanks. I was like, now I have to do something pretty ridiculous and insane with my life, so why not sell my soul and go on Jersey Shore? That's what I did.
And everything, and then when I was 6, all of a sudden, I was a they started to tell my younger cousin that she was
the real singer?
Yeah, and it really upset me, so I summoned Satan, and I write about how I made it.
Where do you summon Satan?
It's in the chapter called Eat, Pray, Love, Conjure Satan. And when I was 12 years old, I signed a deal with Satan in my room, and I was to...
CBS doesn't condone this.
Wait a minute. Because I wanted to get famous no matter what, and then I forgot that I had this deal with Satan and everything, and then I got really famous, and then one day I had this tragic singing accident at
yes, I remember that. Music.
Satan represents the powers of force in nature, and we feel that a cleansing of the idiot ideology of the pallid, incompetent Christ is in order, and so this is something that the Church of Satan is conducting on many different avenues. We're doing this through the use of what we have called aesthetic terrorism. This involves the creative use of art, music, writing, effectively what we call propaganda, the dissemination of information to influence what we call iron youth.
The Mormon Church. This pseudo-Christian cult was founded by Joseph Smith, a 33rd-degree Freemason in 1830 based on his fraudulent Book of Mormon, and has steadily grown in wealth and size ever since. They teach and believe that Mormons are the only true Christians. Jehovah's Witnesses. Founded in the late 19th century by Charles Taze Russell, this Christian cult teaches a dramatically different doctrine than traditional Christianity, and serves as a poison to Christian theology. Rhodes Trust. Named after Cecil Rhodes, as it was written in his will, the Rhodes Scholarship is an award given by the Rhodes Trust for a student to study at the University of Oxford in England. Students who are seen as potential assets for the Illuminati and their plans are given this scholarship. The Cosmos Club. A social club founded in 1878 in Washington, D.C. whose goal is the advancement of its members in science, literature, and art. Its members have included many recipients of the Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize, and Presidential Medal of Freedom. Club of Rome. A global think tank founded in 1972 with the purpose of creating scientific reports which support the idea of population reduction in the world. Their report Limits to Growth, which was first published in 1972, began spreading information about the Illuminati's plan to reduce the world's population. DARPA. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. DARPA is an agency of the Department of Defense which develops new technology for the United States military. Some completed projects include the directed energy weapons such as the Active Denial System ADS, the High Energy Liquid Laser Area Defense System HELIDS, and the Predator drones. The Council of 13. The executive branch of the Illuminati consisting of the heads of the top 13 Illuminati bloodlines known as kings. These kings, along with their queens, princes and princesses, direct those below them in the Committee of 300 or directly run organizations themselves. The Committee of 300. Directly under the Council of 13, the Committee of 300 are representatives of the top bloodlines and in key positions of power who have entire organizations that they are personally the heads of. MJ-12. Also known as Majestic 12 or the Majestic Trust, this is believed by some to be a secret organization of scientists involved with research surrounding UFOs and aliens. The Priory of Zion. This alleged organization supposedly hides and protects a secret bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. The bloodline myth is, in reality, a cover story for the bloodline of what will one day give birth to the Antichrist so he can claim the divine right to rule according to the prophecy of the Old Testament with regards to the bloodline of the Messiah. Satanic cults and churches. Organizations like the Church of Satan, the Temple of Set, the Brotherhood of Saturn, the Order of the Golden Dawn, and the Ordo Templi Orientis OTO, act as recruiting grounds for entry-level occultism. United Nations. Founded in 1945 after World War II under the premise to prevent war between nations, the UN's formation began the framework for the New World Order superstate.
Founder Ted Turner, and joining us, the president of Turner's UN Foundation, former Senator Tim Wirth. Welcome to you, Tim. Pretty extraordinary thing to have done, to give $1 billion of your own money away, right?
Well, what it did is it, more than just itself, it set a precedent for so many other people to give money while they're young and vibrant and alive and not after they die. I mean, look at what Gates has done, what Buffett's done, and all of the big giving that's now occurring from people. Ted was the first, and I can brag on that. You know, getting Forbes magazine to make a list of who are the biggest donors, not just who are the richest people, but who are the biggest donors, who's being the most generous, who's contributing back, other than the sort of safe churches and the universities and so on, who's really working on the basic issues of our country and the world.
Ted, what do you think America's place in the New World Order should be? It's always been seen as the global policeman. But as you said before, you know, it's hard to see with all these military conflicts where the winner and loser lies. What should America be doing?
I think
globally?
the global policeman should be the United Nations. And I don't think we should need one. I think we should use courts the way we do in civilian life. It's time to put war and conflict, armed conflict behind us and move on and start acting like civilized, educated human beings.
You made the point to me in the break there that more American servicemen
are dying now.
Suicide.
From suicide over there than are dying in combat.
I mean, that's shocking, isn't it?
Well, no, I think it's good because it's so clear that we're programmed and we're born to love and help each other, not to kill each other, destroy each other. That's an aberration. That's left over from hundreds of years ago. It's time for us to start acting enlightened.
What's it like to give away $1 billion? I can't even imagine.
It was a third of what I had at the time, so it was a significant. You can't do it very often, but so I made a special occasion out of it. It was, destined for the United Nations to help the poorest people in the world.
Are you pleased with how the money's been used?
Absolutely.
Baha'i. The Baha'i faith is a religious movement started in 19th century Persia with an estimated 5 to 6 million followers in more than 200 countries and territories. The teachings emphasize unifying the major world religions. Rosicrucians, an Enlightenment group dating back to the 1400s. While currently not a very powerful organization, the teachings within Rosicrucianism and the activities of its members were important aids in the Enlightenment era and the overthrow of the Catholic Church's rule. Monopoly corporations. For generations the Illuminati has created and maintained businesses which form monopolies that are relied upon by populations. Oil companies such as Shell Oil, British Petroleum, ExxonMobil, and others have been their primary cash cows aside from banking. De Beers Diamonds and Monsanto are examples from other industries. KGB. The Russian Secret Service which operates as an organized crime network and controls Russian leadership, illegal weapons sales, drug running, money laundering, assassinations, and political kingpins. MI5 and MI6. Just like all law enforcement branches and intelligence agencies in America have Illuminati handlers at the highest levels, the same is true for British MI5, which is equivalent to the FBI, and MI6 which is equivalent to the CIA. FEMA. The Federal Emergency Management Agency gives the President of the United States sweeping powers that in a declared emergency can be used to place citizens in detention centers or prison camps. Police and military are also given authority to walk door to door in communities and confiscate guns from registered gun owners who are law-abiding citizens.
Insider documents recently obtained by InfoWars reveal the current and ongoing operations to staff FEMA and U.S. Army camps inside the U.S. According to our sources, KBR is contracting services for temporary fencing and barricades, along with other services required for temporary emergency environment camps. They're to be located in 5 regions of the United States. Defense Authorization Act, which allows indefinite detention of American citizens. All this at a time when economic conditions and mass demonstrations has patiently put into place the crucial elements of its police-state grid and plan for the internment of political enemies. Live. As the Department of Homeland Security and establishment media keep telling us, the next terror event will be on American soil and carried out by domestic patriot political groups, not Al-Qaeda. The FBI and the CIA have a long history of creating domestic terrorists, patsies, and shifting the blame over to their political enemies.
It's all there. All the government documents, all the government admissions, a civilian inmate labor camp program run by the Army, where they're at, all the details down to how they're going to break the families up and where the children go and the forced inoculations and everything. I mean, it just boggles the mind that all of this is happening.
The fact that detention camps are being constructed inside Homeland Security documents further illustrate the mindset of our federal as potential terrorists, by default creating an entire nation of radicals and revolutionaries, where everyone is a suspect, equally guilty until proven.
Lucis Trust, originally created as Lucifer's Trust and renamed years later, the Lucis Trust is one of the premier publishers of New Age books and material. Its headquarters is located on Wall Street in New York City, just blocks away from the New York Stock Exchange. One of the most famous books from the company is Alice Bailey's Externalization of the Hierarchy, which is mandatory reading for all Illuminati members. Various other private organizations or secret societies masquerading as college fraternities exist as both recruiting grounds for Illuminati supporters, and as a private environment where networking may take place between elite businessmen, politicians, and royalty. There are several other Illuminati-controlled organizations. If you would like to know more about them, then please do your own research. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 7 through 10. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him, whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Even though there is a grand plan to merge all the countries into a one-world government, it cannot succeed without God's permission. God's plan of salvation could not be stopped by the high priests or Romans, nor will his plan for humanity be pushed aside by the workings of man. The second coming of Jesus Christ is assured by the Bible. Only God the Father knows when it will occur. Christians, in the meantime, can be certain that events will play out exactly as Scripture says. Romans 10:9. That if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and shalt believe in thine heart that God hath raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please subscribe to the channel, and like us, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We need all the support we can get. Remember, Jesus saves. God bless.